Hello, this is Laura Dovalo. Welcome to another interactive card making video here on the MFT Stamps YouTube channel. Ever since I saw the Christmas Crew dynamic sets, I knew that I wanted to use them to make interactive cards. The first one features a naughty little elf from the Boy Elf dynamic set. When we pull on the tab, he wiggles his ears and shows us his tongue, thanks to a simple mechanism made with the dice from the Meet in the Middle interactive dynamics. For the second card, I used the smaller die from the double slider Loop Slots dynamics to make Santa's hat fly into the air, revealing a well-kept little secret. It would have been fun to add an appearing and disappearing surprised mouth as well, but I didn't want to complicate an otherwise simple card. Okay, let's get right to business. I started by inking a piece of white cardstock with some Peach Bellini premium dye ink. Milk chocolate, craft, or natural are also great colors for skin. However, we should use a quite heavyweight cardstock that we need to trim down to 2 5/8 by 4 inches. As always, you can find all of the measurements in the description box. After die cutting all of the elements that we need for the elf, we should cut a slit in the panel. Grab a T-ruler and a pencil and draw a line at 2 3/8 of an inch from the lower edge. Now we need to be precise and measure 15/16 of an inch from each edge inwards and mark those spots. There we go. Next, grab a craft knife and a metallic ruler and cut a slit in the middle. Try to make it as neat as possible. For the tongue, you can either use the smallest linkage piece from the Meet in the Middle dynamics and trace it on a piece of electric red cardstock, or you can try to find a tongue-shaped element in your stash. Look at things like containers or the inside pieces of a letter, like the O here, or even better, the negative piece of the H. After assembling the elf, you can give him some rosy cheeks, either with the included die cuts, a light ink, or markers. I used E01 and then E000 to blend it out. Here I'm trying to decide which type of tongue looks better, a wider hand-cut version or a narrow die-cut one. Whichever we choose, we need to add a strip of strong double-sided tape to the back of it so that we can glue it to our pull tab later on. I die-cut a panel out of Summer Splash cardstock using the largest die from the A2 stitched rectangle STAX set 1 dynamics, and here I'm figuring out the placement of the ears. I've made it easier for you by giving you the exact placement of the holes that you need to punch out to assemble the mechanism. I always mention how important it is to layer the pull tab as well as the connectors of this type of mechanism. So we will need 2 pull tabs, 4 of the smaller elements. I actually lost the die but fortunately later found it, as well as 4 of the medium-sized connectors. We will also use 2 of these sleeve pieces that we can die cut out of printer paper. Not to layer them, but to actually use both to keep the pull tab as straight as possible. And now we can just layer these pieces with some liquid adhesive. Before moving on, let's erase those pencil marks so that they won't show on the finished card. Now we can link the small connector pieces to the medium ones with mini brads to form 2 elbows, which we will later link to the pull tab. If we put the brad heads towards the pull tab, they are less likely to snag on it. To assemble the sleeve or collar pieces, which should wrap snugly around the pull tab, we can use either liquid or double-sided adhesive. Okay, I've already glued the first one in the center of the lower edge of the card, and now we can insert the pull tab and add a piece of foam tape that will act as a stop and limit the movement of it. It's time to link the elbow mechanisms to the pull tab. And pay attention now, because this is very important. In order for them to work properly, we need to place them in such a way that they form the shape of an M. We can then grab a pencil and draw a mark on the pull tab. Here's where we need to punch a hole. We can either use a piercing tool or a 1/16 of an inch hole punch. Before continuing, let's just thread the pull tab through the second sleeve. Here I've jumped ahead and I'm linking the connectors to the pull tab with another mini brad. I've pulled the tab as far as it goes, and now we can adhere the second sleeve in its place. As long as it's centered, doesn't interfere with the mechanism, and keeps the pull tab from wiggling from side to side, it's perfect. In the beginning of the video, I forgot to mention the 8 donut-shaped pieces that I die cut, although you could see them on screen. I stacked 4 of each, and now I'm adhering them to the rotating brads. Normally we would cover the mechanism with a panel with strategically die-cut holes in it, and then glue the rotating elements to the donuts. But in this case, the little elf covers the mechanism completely, so we can glue the ears to the donuts directly. Okay, since the mechanism is working perfectly, we can start assembling everything. I used only 1 layer of a thicker double-sided foam tape, and it wasn't really enough. I would definitely recommend using 2 layers of regular Scotch foam tape, which would equal a thickness of 1/8 of an inch, so that the panel doesn't end up buckling like it did on my card. To keep the tongue in its correct initial position, you can adhere it to the elf panel with some washi tape. This is probably the trickiest part, because now you need to peel off the backing from the tape and adhere the elf as centered as possible onto the panel. It's very important that the tongue is correctly adhered to the pull tab. I actually ended up having to shorten it to 7/8 of an inch, and I used score tape measuring 1/8 of an inch to adhere it. But I edited out all of that, and here you can see the correct version being glued in its place. Use your finger to rub over the score tape, and if needed you can curl the tip of the tongue a little bit so that it doesn't catch on the elf's collar. If you want to, you can add some more foam tape to the hat. Here in this side view you can see the buckling that I mentioned before, so learn from my mistake and use 2 layers of foam tape. And since you've seen me adhering a panel to a card base with score tape a bunch of times, I'm just going to skip to the pictures of the finished card so that we can start working on card number 2. Let me just mention that both of the sentiments that I used today are from Birdie Brown's super cute Christmas SELFies stamp set. Okay, Santa needed a bald head, so I started by doing some partial die cutting of this 2 5/8 of an inch wide strip with a 3-inch circle die. I placed the upper cutting plate in such a manner that it only covered half of the circle, and ended up with this piece that I later trimmed to 4 5/8 of an inch tall. After die cutting all of the elements, we can adhere the hat to the body with some washi tape and compare it to the elf. They are exactly the same size, so we're off to a good start. I die cut 2 beards so that I could use a sliver of the second one as dimensional adhesive. But before adhering them in place, let's use a WOO marker to add some texture and shading to all of the white elements. For the beard, you can add some squiggly lines as if you were drawing the fur of a sheep. For the nose, I actually stacked 3 pieces, and now I'm using E11 and E21 to shade the inside of the ears. My wiggle eyes had lost their adhesive, so I used glue dots to adhere them. They also had some plastic burr around them, which I got rid of with a nail file. Here are all of the elements that we need for the mechanism. A 3/4 of an inch wide pull tab, a medium weight acetate strip that should be a smidge narrower than the pull tab, a cellophane strip that measures 9/16 of an inch, and the smallest die from the double slider loop slots dynamics set. I adhered it with washi tape at 1 inch from the bottom edge. I'm going to go through the assembly of a double slider mechanism really quickly, so if you need more information, check out Carolyn's tutorial with the super cute raccoons from last year. So first we insert the cellophane strip in the slots, overlap it, and staple or glue it. I like to use core tape for this, but Carolyn loves her mini staples, and both work perfectly fine. Let's cut off the excess and move on. Next, we need to adhere the sleeve or collar piece in the center of our panel and insert the pull tab. I'm adhering it to the back of the mechanism so that Santa's hat will move in the opposite direction. Here's a quick demonstration for you. I've adhered a strip of washi tape to the cellophane that can be seen in the front of the panel, and when I pull on the tab, the washi tape moves upwards. Now we can adhere the strip of acetate, which is 5 3/8 of an inch long, to the cellophane. It's easier to add foam tape to the tip of the acetate strip if we temporarily adhere Santa to the panel with washi tape, and now we can glue the hat in its place. When testing the mechanism, we can see right away that we'll need to limit the movement of the hat so that it doesn't fly too high up and catch on the edge of Santa's head on its way down. This is very easy to do. We simply need to add a strip of cardstock to the back of the pull tab. That way it can't slide too far but still reveal enough of the baldness. After adding some foam tape to Santa, we can adhere him to the panel and the panel to the card base, which measures 8 3/4 by 5 5/8 of an inch. For this card we do need foam tape, but 1 layer is enough. Okay, bear with me, we're almost done. Just a couple of details left, like the sentiment that I embossed on some black licorice cardstock and partially die cut with one of the banners from the Starburst Sentiment Strips Die-namics. I also added some highlights with a white gel pen to make the cheeks, noses and head of these fun characters look shiny. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really liked these cards. If you don't have all of the Christmas Crew characters, you could absolutely switch it up and make a card with Rudolph the reindeer showing its tongue, or feature a snowman with a flying hat. See you next time. Hasta la vista!